not a dollar. But we have to name the obstacles. We have to name the obstacles, for instance, in our church. And I tell you, it never starts with obstacles in society. Not even in communist lands. Not even in communist lands. It never starts with obstacles in society. Nothing is more difficult to overcome as the obstacles in our churches. And the obstacles in our churches, they have something to do with structure. They have something to do with family relationships. Yeah? In the German Baptist churches where I was growing up, here in Germany, you know, you would have to have a certain name. They recognized you by certain names. Even with the Covenant Church in Germany now being more than 100 years old, we also have our names. If your name is Achenbach, then you're okay. Yeah? So there are certain names, they are with us, they are our names. Yeah? So we even recognize ourselves by names. There are certain families, they have now children in the 5th generation of pastorates. So 5 generations down the road, the children were pastors. So just imagine what it does to your church association when you have such very clearly deep enrooted family structures. Yeah? As soon as you do not belong to those family mafia structures, you are in trouble. You are really in trouble.
So it's a fun to buy clothes from everywhere.
So, but then we also ask for obstacles in our society. Yeah? For instance, there might be obstacles, but our analysis may show us that we have structures of evil and demonic powers in our society. For instance, in the village where I told you the church started to look for a solution of employment issues and so on. In that village, we very soon found out that the village was controlled by a druidic order. The Druids, they are priests of a Gentile, very old Germanic and also Celtic religious cult. So you would not expect in a German village in the year 2000 to have a druidic order which totally controlled the village. In this village, 600 years old, there's never been a church, not even a Catholic church or Lutheran church or what have you, never ever. This village was absolutely resistant against all Christian influence. When we started to do church planting there, we had no clue about druidic orders. And if somebody would have told me there is a German village with a druidic order running everything, I would call the guys off. I would believe it. We are in the year 2000. We are not in the year 1650 or something. Yeah, we are in the year 2000. Yeah, so when we started to understand the problem, why the village was so anti-religious, so religiously resistant, we introduced our prayer nights. Every Friday, the whole church is praying for the whole night. We start 10 o'clock and we move into the early morning hours. And we started to pray. And I could tell you stories of spiritual conflict and infightings with demonic powers. If somebody would have told me, being a theology professor, this is still possible, I would say, well, you probably have seen many Hollywood movies. It was not Hollywood. It was reality. Reality. So there have been obstacles, and those obstacles need to be overcome. Obstacles of spiritual nature, but also obstacles of financial nature, obstacles of social nature, obstacles of political nature. So what are the obstacles in your society? Our context analysis would have brought everything out. So at the end we would know. We would have a map, a spiritual map of our place. We would have a social map of our structure. We would have a map which gives us an idea of what is going on in this place. And then we will work we will look at the power structures and power-driven obstacles in the place. Now let me say 2 words about the power structures. This is, of course, everything is very fast because it's only impulse possible. Yeah, but if you look at the city, at your territory, there will always be 4 structures of power. All our societies are driven by those power structures. One structure is politics. Politics drive our societies. They determine our culture. They determine the ways we operate. Politics is a very important structure. It's administration of your social realm, of your social space. It's the administrative power. But then it's not only politics. There is, for instance, knowledge. The knowledge structure. Knowledge. Where is knowledge created in your place? It's the schools. It's the newspapers. It's all of this. So where is knowledge? Where does knowledge sit? Yeah. So, but then there is economy. Economy. So the economical structures. Yeah. So and then there is the social life, or the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations. It might be, for instance, a rabbit growing association of your place. You say, well, what do rabbits have to do with church planting and all of this? But you know, in some places, such a rabbit growing little organization controls everything, because that's where they drink their beer. And that's where they weigh their rabbits. And that's where they have all the socializing ideas. So that little community controls a lot of processes in your place. So the dynamics going into your village here will be political, will be economic, will be knowledge-based, and will come from the NGOs. So where are your obstacles sitting? Which power is displayed in which way? So where do we start praying? Where do we start changing it? We want to build a church here in this territory. We want to change the territory in the name of the Lord and see the Spirit of God move in. So which power structures do we change? Obstacles, power-driven obstacles. So which obstacles are there? If you do not know where your enemy is, you are in danger to fight your neighbor. If you do not know who your enemy is, you are in danger to become a fighter against windmills. And you know all about this absolutely crazy type of a game to see in windmills your enemies. No, you have to know who your enemy is. You have to understand who your enemy is. You have to understand where the problems are in order to approach them directly and change them wherever it's needed. Now, if you are that far, then all the building blocks for a plan are in place. Now, a church will now have gone quite a bit of a way. Yeah, and it has taken time. While the church does go that far until up to the plan, the whole church life is now starting to move into a new path of being. When I come to a church and they want to go into a transformation process, I usually tell them, you can never do any transformation using the principle of adding stuff to you. This church will be transformed. At the end of the process, the whole church is not going to exist any longer. Your programs, everything you do is at stake. So you will have to discuss this anew when we are done. And they say, well, but just leave our worship service. Even that. The service, the Sunday service, our Sunday service, your Sunday service, all Protestant Sunday services are classic Lutheran. You know, Martin Luther committed the biggest sin you can imagine for a Bible translator. He translated 72 terms. of communication language with one word: predigt, preaching. That's why we are so incredibly sermon-oriented. Please show me where the Bible, what does the Bible speak about a Sunday morning service as you do that thing? Yeah, find the passage telling you this. If you find one, yeah, my annual salary for the next year is yours. There is no such thing. It's Martin Luther who has put the preaching of the word in the middle of it, yet not even communicating the word, the preaching in the middle of it. So we have to have a sermon. But that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, you will receive the power of the Holy Spirit and you will become who? My witnesses. Now witness is martus. It's martyria. It is martyrdom. It is a completely different term from what we believe a witness is. For us, a witness is a talkative person. He has some knowledge or she has some knowledge and they talk. Now this is not what the New Testament says a witness is. Yeah? So even our service, the way we conduct our services, very much backward, very much yesterday type, very much set in modernity, and then the postmodern, the younger generation, has very little to do with this type of a service. So they get bored, they don't remember anything, and our people, as I told you, they don't remember the sermons as the young people do not. So it's 15% which sits with them.
What is the word behind preaching?
Well, Martin Luther used.
Yeah, many words maybe.
The Greek word, many words.
Okay.
There's a pantomime, we have the pantomime, we have theater, a spectaculum, we have a number of words. Martin Luther translated all of this with one term. Yeah, for those who is interested, I've done a book on leading through preaching. Martin Luther has this great expression. He says, well, God must be crazy. He decided to lead his church by preaching. That's a great expression. So I use this and I ask myself, now how do we preach or communicate the word of God? How does an apostle preach? How does a prophet preach? How does an evangelist preach? How is a pastor preaching? And how is a teacher preaching? Are they all the same?
What's the name in German of this book?
Leiten durch Verkündigung. Is there a difference? Now, I sat in homiletic courses. They were all designed the same. So everybody was listening to the same talking. Everybody designed the same speech. It was 3 main and 7 sub-points you presented. It was all the same talkative stuff. Is this type of sermon leading anywhere? But how do I strategically preach? How do I prophetically preach? Is this ever covered? Now, if you commit such sins and you take a whole reality of communication and come up with one little term and you pre-design that term, then you have a very interesting effect. You have the effect we all know because people can't remember and they are not changed. They go for decades to our church and nothing changes in them because that type of preaching doesn't change. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but I had the thought that when he did that, Martin, I think it was a time where they didn't understand the word in the context because they didn't have the Bible in their own language. But don't you think he put the preaching in the middle because he had to open up the Bible for him?
What happened? You know, I mean, I do not justify or I do not say Martin Luther was all wrong for what he done. The problem is he was not correct. And the result was, you know, that Lutheran Orthodoxy, the Lutheran Church has not evangelized for 200 years after Martin Luther. There was not even a mission concept. There was no mission. Not only there was no mission, leading theologians, they would say all mission is a sin. Mission was totally down. You know, you may know how the first mission work started, because your king needed to somehow see the Indians under his rule to become more Christian. So he was asking your Lutheran church in Denmark to send missionaries to India. And you know what happened? None were sent. Because the Danish bishop did not agree with it. It was, mission is Catholic and Papist, and who does mission sins. Because mission is not a Christian venture. And then your king went to Franke. And then they sent 2 Germans. And they went then to India, the first evangelical missionaries ever. Yeah, but this was already decades and decades and decades after the Reformation. After the Reformation. So concentrating on the verbal preaching of the gospel did not really build the church. Martin Luther was wrong with this. But we still stick to that concept of a sermon. Still stick to that concept of a worship service. Of a worship service. So now, having all the building blocks, we come to a plan. And this is our 6th step. So we take the vision, we name a goal, we create a strategy, and then we will think about the structure. So create a plan of action. Come into your society. Very important. Planning is an incredibly important step. And if we start planning, we always keep in mind, we bear in mind the entrance way, the way of entering a social space. Remember, we entering the social space in a special way. We want to see trust being built in the population. We want to see people understanding what we talk about when we say the gospel changes their life. So we have our 4-level idea. And so we will create our programs trying to find a way to enter society by really getting to their heart, the religious heart of the people. We'll start with the material culture, we will move into the social culture, we'll see the cognitive culture changes, and we go to the religious culture. So we start here with the social, with the material. We start here. We design service-oriented program. Serve comes first. Because serving, I start to connect with the people. Serving is very important. And the good thing about serving is, when I plan serving, I plan also inclusive actions. I will introduce participatory type of service. I will not only serve myself, I will invite people to help me. I told you, our feeding scheme has at the moment 35 working people with us. There are only 2 church members. The leader and the other guy. Because having started this, we were a small church. A very small church. So we invited people to help us. And they came. In Hamburg, the Methodist Church in Hamburg, Hamm, a part of Hamburg, you know, a Methodist pastor, he was sitting in my seminar, he was so excited, so he went home, he explained to the church that there is a way for us to start and to go into society and do this with the society, and the church was excited, and then they designed their plan, and they designed an idea, and they found their projects, they found their service project, and they wanted to start. And then they went to his church and asked the church to sign up, the church members to sign up, who was ready to help, and very few people came. He was so disappointed. So I told him, he phoned me and he said, well, this idea doesn't work with our church. I said, well, you put an ad into the Abendblatt, the Hamburg Abendblatt newspaper. You describe your project and you invite people to come and help. He said, well, who will come? Methodist Church, Hamburg, a church-based program. No, nobody's coming to come. I said, going to come. I said, well, do this, please. He did. 135 people turned. 135 people. He was flabbergasted. He phoned me and said, well, Johannes, revival is going on. Now the church is packed with new people. Yeah, they started to serve in the church, and then the typical process I described to you started to unroll. With our village church, with the 5 members, you know how it went? We had 5 the first year, we had 9 the second year, we had 14 the third year, we had 272 the fourth year. 272 the fourth year. Then the system exploded. You have to spend time. We've lost the people around us. In Germany, the church has lost society. Yeah, the church doesn't need that society. Now, when I came from the former Soviet Union, I was so glad to come to the Western world in hope. You know, the church would enter society, because in my country, society didn't need the church. The church was an enemy of society. The church was fought against. So I come to the free West, and the first thing what I hear, the church does need society. Exactly the opposite thing. We don't want to mix up with the world. Now, we need time to enter society. So planning means you plan the entrance autobahn. You're planning that way. And please don't plan only on the social. The result with the social is, as soon as you do this, then you have a social work. Christian social work is not yet church planting or church growth. It needs to be done in a way that you lead the people from one step to the other. And if that's not given, then your planning might be a problem. So we start somewhere, and the question is not what you start and what you do here. You may start with on a very small scale, sometimes ridiculously small. Give you an example. We have a covenant church in Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Garmisch-Partenkirchen is in Bavaria. It's a very nice area, very rich area. About 30% of the population in Garmisch is millionaires from the former Soviet Union, the Eastern Bloc. Lots of money in this city. It's a very rich place, very rich place. And the church is there, our free church, in the middle of all of this. So when I came there, they told me, well, you know, Johannes, the only members coming to us is old folks, rich, old evangelical free, or... Oh, sorry. This is the evangelist now in action. Can you help me? Thank you very much. My computer is not yet droning. Okay, thank you very much. So I went through them, we did the context analysis, and we found out that the darkest spot in this city, in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, was the very lonely women raising their children, women with single mothers. They came there, they served all those rich guys, and they got pregnant, and now they have a child, and nobody cares for them. Those single mothers were left out completely. There was no program for them. And even in the political administration, the problem. Thank you very much for this. Thank you. The problem was not even visualized by the political parties. So our church, through a context analysis, found this out. And the biggest problem for the single mothers was, where do you go to with your kids? You have to work, hard working. All these Romanian women and Eastern European women and Turkish women and women from all over Germany living there and under bad conditions. But what do you do with your kids? They're in school for half a day, but then, and there was no playing ground for them, nothing. So we looked at this problem and we designed a plan. Now we would go and we would ask the city. There was a campground which was run down, it looked terrible. We would restore that campground and we offer a program where we would spend time with those kids. So there was a first program. So the Covenant Church of Garmisch-Partenkirchen went restore the place. We invited the women to help. They all came. Not all, but many of them came. We invited the political parties to advertise it. The economical structures to help out. People started to get aware of it. It didn't take long, and a wonderful campground was designed. And the church members even took up responsibility for those kids. Now they play with them. They spend time with them. But, well, it took them about a year to come up with a plan and to realize this and to restore everything and acquire enough money to do so. And now they tell me, Johannes, we have people in our church we have never seen before. We have never seen before. Those kids, they come to the children's groups. Those single mothers, they start to attend our small groups. And all of a sudden, a completely new approach helped the church to get on their feet. So let's design a program, plan something with a vision in mind, with the potential we have, with the needs of the society in mind, create a strategy and move into the place with a church planting program. And then of course we start to act. We move into the action, and we will balance human action, and we will always ask God to intervene. We want the people to see a miracle take place. Tell you, if your budget is sufficient, you have all money, you have all power, you have all human resources, you can do the project on your own, you don't need God. And I tell you, nobody is going to see God. They may see you. And they say, wow, this church is good, but they will never be attracted. A church planting project without a miracle needed is in some ways not successful. By definition not. You have to have a factor of miracle. So the balance between human action and divine intervention is incredibly important. I even talk about intervention evangelism. I want God to intervene. But in order to see God intervening, I have to know the things we do, the projects we decided to do, the plan we designed is not just our plan. It's taken out of a very close communication with God. We did our homework. We did our analysis. We know what the Spirit of God has given us. We are obedient. We take what we have and we bring it to the people, and we want to see a miracle now take off. But in order to see this to take off, we will have to see God acting. Now, sometimes it's very simple. You know, sometimes it's very simple on the one hand. On the other hand, it is also incredibly tough to do so. There was one church in Wolfsburg. That's the place where they built the VWs. So I come to Wolfsburg a year after year, consecutively 4 years in a row, to a North American-based Anabaptist church. So here I am evangelizing a year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year, and nothing really changed. Nothing big changed. This person here, the person there became a Christian, but it was not a big blow, it was not a big start, it was not a big change. So the fourth year I told the brothers, I'm not coming any longer. It's for the last time I'm here. To be honest, I'm sick and tired of you. I'm a straightforward talking guy. I'm sick and tired of this. This is not leading anywhere, so why should I come again? I will not come. Except you decide to do context analysis with me. We run to your neighbors. We ask the neighbors what they need, and we design then a program accordingly. So we went. They decided, we went, we asked the guys living around them, and we found out most of the people were old, senior citizens. And their problem number one was simple, their dogs. where do I go with my wow Sunday morning? Where do I leave my dog? When I go for holidays, where do I leave my dog? My dog, they had nothing left except their dog. And now where do I put my dog to? There was no doggy hotel, no nothing. So here I come and say, well, church, we have a problem. We identify the problem. So there's a plan of action. We start a doggy hotel as an evangelistic tool. You can't imagine the reaction of those guys. You know, almost all of them fell. Well, they were not even inviting Reinhard Bonke or some other guy lifting up hands. They fell on their necks right there. They were so upset with me. We are evangelizing and you suggest doggy hotels. I said, well, you know what? Let's try once. Next Sunday, we will advertise big times that the church offers a kind of what do they call this in English? A nursery for dogs. So people will come and they leave their dog here and then they go to the service. And we organize a team, you know, nurturing those dogs for 2 hours. And so the brothers, they were against it, but finally after a long of talking, and you know, I can be very problematic in this regard. So they decided to do so. And one of the elders of the church personally decided he would take care of the dogs because he knows what dogs are, and he had a team of young people and they would help him. And the church had a huge compound, so they have enough space, so we will care for the dogs. About 20 dogs were brought to the church. For the first time in all those years, we had 20 visitors. And we had 20 dogs, 22 or 23, something around this. But it was more than 20 dogs. So the service starts, a classic service, nothing special. I went on preaching. I promised them there will be no big evangelism. I'm not going to run any evangelistic crusade. I will just preach as I always do and ask the Lord for a word. While I preach, an old lady raises her hand in the midst of my preaching. She says, Pastor, sorry, well it's incredibly problematic, but you know, my Holger, meaning her dog, he is now with the guys there, and I don't know how long they keep him and how long they watch after him, but you know what? I'm old, I will die soon, I need to clear my heart, I clean my heart, I want to give my life to Jesus. Please, Pastor, could you do this now with me? She was not even listening, she was expecting me to talk to her. So I interrupted my sermon. I said to one of the elders, would you, Helmut, take this woman and go with her? And I wanted to continue my sermon, and then a man says, Pastor, I would also, could you, yeah. So I never finished my sermon. We didn't do much. We just offered a nursery for dogs.
We will all do that.
Well, you have to do context analysis first. So and then I went on and said, well, brothers, well, this is obviously a problem in this part of the city. That's where your church is. And please, you have enough space, you have big grounds. There's no problem to start a dog hotel and ask those old people to pay for it. You will find unemployed people who will run this doggy hotel. Yeah, this would be a service to the community. Just guess, did they do it? No. No. And well, I didn't come anymore. I haven't been there since. I promised them I will not come, just to evangelize all those pious butts. I'm sick and tired of this. I kick you once, I kick you twice, I kick you 55 times, nothing changes, because you do not enter society. But the little program, a very little, not a big thing, but on the right spot, changes the world. Changes the world. So look for a balance, and then look for spiritual management. It's very, very important that if you start to run a project like that, you have to see, even if it's a doggy thing, it needs to be spiritual run. You know the difference between a leader who has a gift of leading given by the Spirit of God, and a leader who has a gift of leading which is just naturally coming? You know what the difference is? Or a teacher who knows how to teach, and a teacher who is gifted by the Spirit of God, gifted to be a teacher. The simple difference is, when the Lord, the Spirit of God, gives us gifts, He attaches to those gifts ministries in order to create power. There will never be spiritual power, regardless what you do, if you do what you do and you're not gifted by the Spirit for that. So spiritual management is really important. It is incredibly important, because we want to run a Christ-centered, a Christomatic culture. Yeah? It's very important, a Christomatic culture. And then of course, as soon as we do this, we want to see that this is now done in a reciprocal interiority. We always look for the project and look how the project operates in a way to go through society and see society change. So the seventh step is action. And then we come to the evaluation. So I usually suggest the church, after a year of running your operation, you should be free to move in and then ask yourself, is this program successful? Is this program leading anywhere? Is this program really bringing us from the service platform into the dialogue platform? Is this dialogue platform opening ways to debate issues of truth? Is this evangelistically helpful? Are people giving their life to Jesus? Or is it not? Another example. In one of the cities we did a context analysis, and we found out that the biggest German cities, the biggest problem in place was with the so-called migrant women. The migrant women didn't have driver's licenses. They couldn't know how to drive even a bicycle, but there was no bus system. So they had to go long ways to pick up their food. And if you know what a Muslim woman has to carry on her neck, that was a huge problem. So whoever we asked, we found this to be the central point of problem. There was the felt need for those families and those women. Our covenant church, placed in this place, decided to approach that issue. In the project state, we decided we would teach those women to drive bicycles. When we came to offer a bicycle school, our women offered a bicycle school to those women, because women have to do this. You know, it's a Muslim culture, men are not allowed. We offered a bicycle school. We soon found out there were no bicycles, because the women didn't have money for a bicycle. So we decided we would start with a little repair shop for bicycles. And we asked the old brothers in the church to start a repair shop for used bicycles. We went to our society and we asked the city people who had bicycles to offer bicycles in order to give them to the migrant women. So our first project was a bicycle repair shop. And it was brothers who started this. We invited bicycles to be given here. The society was bringing bicycles in. Society was involved. Okay? And then we advertised the repair shop as a humanitarian aid action to the society. So unbelieving old guys came helping. Okay? So this whole bicycle shop became an interesting setup for old guys. You know, They are pensioners, nothing to do. So they did blah blah and were sitting and doing the bicycles, repairing the bicycles. And out of this bicycle shop, we started a small group for senior men. Small group for senior men. And then, of course, the bicycles were available, so the bicycle school was introduced. The bicycle women's school started. And the Muslim women never come alone. We could have thought about this, but we didn't. So when the mothers came to their first lesson, it was not just the mother. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming, just all with her. We could not run any school because the children wanted to be dealt with. So we had to create a playing ground. But when the children saw their mothers on bicycles, they all wanted a bicycle too. So the bicycle women's school was soon becoming a bicycle kids school. And the old fellows, they had to create more bicycles. Now children and youth bicycles. Yeah? It didn't take long. And those women, being so excited about the help they got from German women, suggested that they could probably do something together. And out of this, the first language school for foreign women started. And then down the road, about 1.5 years later, our church here had their first small group for women with Muslim background. And 2.5 years later on, the first woman and the first man with a Muslim background was baptized. You see, what happens here, you start with an idea, but this idea is taking on. It creates a dynamic. It goes into society. It's all of a sudden, it takes a dynamic on. Or the same thing now with us in Bergneustadt. In Bergneustadt, we started feeding people. We started feeding people, and that feeding scale grew and grew and grew, and today there are 150 people coming, and we have built our place where we help them. So our feeding kitchen, the kitchen, is in operation. But people come and receive their food, and when they come and receive their food, and they will always receive their food, then you create underdogs. You create a begging culture. This is no kingdom. This is no king. This is bad. You don't want society to develop like this. It's absolutely bad. And that's not kingdom mentality. This is not church. So the kitchen was important, but kitchen is not all. So the next step, we invited those women coming to our kitchen to a cafe. So the International Women's Cafe went on in place. The International Women's Cafe, the women came there and they had their children with them. So we started an international youth operation. Now this is not yet done. Now this week, we are actually starting our first employment scheme. So the employment office will run the first 4 or 5 husbands and even a woman which comes out of this clientele, which gets food here and is in the cafe, and also their kids being served for, they will receive some jobs here. In order to offer those jobs, we had to create, the Covenant Church people created the 7-7 concept. It's 14 companies by now. 14 companies. They are kingdom-minded, kingdom-based. They social companies. They earn a lot of money. Some of them are very successful. But the money goes into supporting such structures. Now what happens? Our people will go into the kingdom system. And that kingdom system sits in Bonn and is nationwide in operation. And they will receive their work.
Johannes, you lost me.
Yep.
Kingdom-minded
companies.
Who's that? Where are they? Who's that?
Yeah. Well, social. Do you know social business? Does it say? Does ring bells in your ears? No.
No social responsibility.
No. Well, there is a new wing in economy. You know, a couple of years ago, a Bangladeshi received the Nobel Prize for social entrepreneurship. Microcredit system, but it was given to the so-called non-dividend businesses. Non-dividend businesses means this is a business operation which is socially minded. You receive your earnings, you receive your salaries, but the capital design is moved into developing the social space. So we call it social businesses. And social entrepreneurship, social business system is a large idea which runs the world in many countries. In Germany it has become very popular. So we are entering this now, the idea with the Christian spirit. In our 14 companies, here with 7 concept, for instance, they are in the energy sector, or we are now into building up new resources. There is a nice, very strong oily tree in Central African Republic, grows in the jungle, and that tree is now planted in Germany and grows fast. In 15 years, it reaches up to 40 meters. It's nice wood. So we started with planting those trees in many places in Germany.
When you say we, who's that?
It's a whole group of people like myself.
Like you said, so they are Christian. When you see
They're
kingdom
all
minded,
Christian.
they are.
This system is a Christian-run company system.
Okay.
Yeah.
From Bonn.
Huh?
In
It
Bonn.
sits in Bonn. The 7-7 concept sits in Bonn. But we have an all Germany organization, the Kingdom-minded business association sits in Berlin. There's a whole scene now. It started in some Pentecostal charismatic circles, but it's now covering many our covenant churches also. It's a new day in social development and in society development. But I name this to you, I give it to you simply to show this. Now we started with the kitchen. We moved into a new operation serving the needs of those people. And then we have the next scheme. But everywhere we go, we will try to see that conversation takes place and small groups break off. So here is a women's small group. My wife runs one. Yeah. And in the kitchen we have now up to 10 people coming to our services, and in the course of the next couple of months we are creating 2 small groups here. Here we have already a small group. Yeah? So we start with a social, and then we move into a conversation, and after the conversation we move into an evangelistic phase. At the end you don't need any crusades. People will give their life to Jesus in such a small group, and they will come to know the Lord, and evangelism takes off. This is the so-called cycle. Cycle of missional church, involvement, potential analysis, context analysis, vision. You create the problem with obstacles, create a plan, action, evaluation. And then you have created a cycle which becomes actually, at the end, a type of a drill. You drill yourselves into society. Or as Martin Luther used to say, you throw a stone into the water and the stone is going to create huge movements in your water. So we drill ourselves into society by going cyclically into the society. So this cycle is repeated every year anew. It goes into your context. So as soon as the frame is established and the church sees results, then it becomes something joyful. And as soon as this becomes joyful, the best way is to come from the joy to a DNA. then it's natural. Then it becomes a natural process, a natural way of going. As I said, in my church, you will have very little chance to come to the church and stay without knowing your gifts and your potential. I'm not going to the next business meeting and ask people who would like to get into our new project with the unemployed people. I will never do this because I know whom I have. I go to those people in the church who have their buildings, who have their cars, who have their money, and who have their potential, and I will tell them, hey, listen, you and me, we have to spend time in prayer. And then they ask me, what for? I say, because I want your money. And I say this very politely. Or I want your time. Or I want your car. Yeah? And if you have given 10% of what you have, what you possess, 10% of your car is always mine. And 10% of your house is obviously the 10% of church's possession. So you can't say, this is mine. Well, literally everything you have belongs to the Lord, so nothing is yours. You will keep it back as long as you have never experienced miracles. But as soon as you start to experience miracles and you see how the Lord moves and how your 10% given becomes 100% add, then people say, well, you know what, you can have 20%. You can have my car for 2 days, not just for one. You can have my time because, you know, God gives back. And He never gives back less than returning the investment. He is always very graciously in this. Let me close here. We still have a bit of time, but I just want you to ask questions if you have one, or criticize if you are upset, or tell me off if you think this is absolutely German. So, whatever it is. I'm here to listen and to answer possibly. Yeah, go ahead.
You answered one of my biggest prayers this afternoon, because the whole idea of being missional is to reach out and to let the people experience the kingdom of God and bring them in contact with us is a huge problem, because there's a few. All the people in the church are involved with all kinds of things, and there's always a problem of getting enough people involved because everyone is so busy doing everything. Yeah. But I know that there's so many people out there, like you said, that not yet, they don't know yet that they would like to be part of a program that is helping other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And those people are waiting.
And those people are waiting. And I mean, there's so many. And if we can have, if those people can have a primary focus of repairing bikes, cooking food, doing something that helps other people, and we can get in contact with them, we can build relationships in small groups. I mean, we're going to advertise. We are. I'm going to advertise and try to see how that for help for people to be part of such projects and see how the reaction will be.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. I got the idea that you said that you wanted a church not in different interest groups, but kids, youth, and family, parents, and elders in the same church.
Yeah, sure, they all are there.
Yes,
It's
and not separated.
No, well,
yeah.
Well, then you misunderstood me. What I'm saying is, I want all youth, I want all kids, I want all senior citizens in a given territory,
Yeah.
being served.
Yeah.
And that's-
My question would be,
Yeah.
in Denmark it's very often so that you will have the feeling that the youth are lost. In many churches it's like we are losing them.
Yeah.
And you said it very well. You said until they get kids, then you can have them maybe in a festival or something like that, worship thing. But then you will lose them again. I think you said that.
Yeah.
How do you succeed letting them stay? Altså, hvad får dem til at blive?
Staying in Christ, staying
Make them
Yeah,
stay.
not leaving when they get their children or they not get married or something like that.
Well, you see, for instance, in our the open club, the so-called youth club, we start to gather them and we connect with them and we create a program not for them, but with them. And we means me at the age of 60. I need to tell you, I don't like their music at all.
Yeah, but you join them.
But I join.
Yeah.
How many days of the week do you have?
Well, I have 24 hours of the day. I'm actually the strategist behind it. When I'm home, I'm with it. Yeah. In certain projects, I'm not everywhere, but I'm strategically with the church. Strategically with the church, and we have a strong leadership. I can't do it. I can do it only in time where I'm free. And I don't have so much time, but it's actually enough. It's not a question how much time you have, it's always quality time. And that needs to be learned. It's not everybody's thing, you know. And I count my day according to 15 minutes. And I have 24 hours. Many people have just 12 or 14 or 16. I have 24 hours because I've found that my brain is not sleeping during the night. And I've read this in David's words. He said, even during the night you teach me. So I lay down and I say, Lord, now let's work through the night. I have a problem here, a theological problem. I write a book or I write a sermon, and I'd like to spend my night working with you. And the next morning I'm rested and I'm all into my sermon because the Lord has revealed me all kinds of stuff during the night. My brain is not sleeping. My brain is highly active, and yours too, during the night. The question is what your brain does. Sometimes our brain does all kinds of stupid stuff because it's not orderly controlled by the Spirit of God. And I want my brain even work during the night. But I like sleeping. I like sleeping, nicely sleeping. I need my 8 hours, but those 8 hours are expended because the Spirit of God takes over. It sounds a bit mystical, I know. Well, John, 5 o'clock, we wanted to close 5 o'clock. I'd like to close with a word on this whole project. A word which comes from an image. Now, you probably know Henri Derault. Henri Derault was a great painter, a French painter. And he painted his paintings, usually scenes in Bretagne. And you look at the scenes, they are colorful. It's great paintings, great paintings. I love his scenery. I really love his scenery. Very often he created images of castles at in Bretagne, castles which are ports actually in Bretagne. So this is one of his most famous images. And if you take this image and you know what it represents, then you ask yourself, how much vodka has this person been drinking in order to see this image and make out of this painting? Now, this is not just my question. Many people may have asked themselves that question. So the fathers of the city, they were hanging those images at the spot where the painter was standing while he was doing his painting. And if you are there where he was, and the place he looked at this, they even had this, I don't know what they call this perspective giver. They have it there, so you have exactly the image the guy had, and then you may, if the sun shines right, you may see what the author of this wanted to see. Why do I say all of this? You know, we have to have a perspective, a right perspective. So for the future of church planting and covenant church planting in Europe, the question is a question of perspective. The question is, are we at the spot where God looks at our villages and cities? Do we have God's perspective? We may have our perspective. We may have become very sick and tired of our church work because we use our perspective. Are we at the spot where God stands designing His great painting? So are we at the spot? Will we ever become the author of a great image, you know, even looking at the great reality? Great image looking at the great reality. Will we? We may, but then we will have to ask God to give us His perspective. What I did nothing more than just trying to paint a theological base for you of an ecclesia which is growing because God has placed the ecclesia in the middle of the world to be the light of the world and to be the salt of the earth. So you go home, you look at your churches and you ask yourself, it might be a very painful question, now where in the world are we light and salt? For this concrete, I'm not talking generally, you know, it's this other big problem with the systematic theologians. They like to philosophize. So philosophy becomes a huge thing, and we talk about the universal church, the church universal, the church triumphant, the church great, you know. So we're almost in heaven with our theology, but on earth, in my concrete setting, in my village, in my place, I see very little of all this triumphant church. I want to know, what does God want to do? I want to see what He sees. I want to know where God is in my city, in my village, in my place. I want to see Him. I never forget, it was in the beginning of the 80s. We had a revival in Romania. In the city of Oradea, a small Baptist church grew in one summer from about 100 members to 700 members. In one summer. We were all excited about that church growth. So I took a plane and I flew to the place. And I met Paul Negrut, the pastor of this church. He was a doctor, a medical doctor. He never studied any theology. So I asked Paul, what happened? How comes your church grew 600 members in one summer? And Paul gave me a hug and he said, Johannes, it's very, very simple. We look where the Holy Spirit goes to, and then we follow. It sounded very simple. Of course, all simple is incredibly genius. It's deep. And that's the problem. I don't want to oversimplify. That's not what I do here. But I want us to maybe receive a new vision and to see, you know, a stupid little bicycle repair shop is not a big deal, is it? Or another covenant church in Darmstadt, they started to teach all citizens how to cook food. Men, because the men, they have never learned to cook their food themselves. Now their women died, and they're alone. And the context analysis made it very clear, those men, they hang around, they don't know how to cook their food. So we invited cooks from the neighboring restaurants, non-believing people, and said, well, let's have a kitchen. Let's have a kitchen where they learn how to cook. And the city offered us an incredible kitchen in one of the centers, and we could use it once a week. And so our church in Darmstadt, the Covenant Church of Darmstadt, started that thing. Yeah, the man came, and I never forget one of them. He was a guy who was had a certain sickness, and you would fall down, and then you would start getting all kinds of movements. Epileptic, you say epileptic in English? He was epileptic. So he fell down, and he was so afraid he would fall down one day. And then, you know, here they are so excited, and the food turned out so great, and he was so excited, and getting excited means you are, as epileptic, you will obviously fall down. So he fell down, and he was so embarrassed. And when our brother, who is in charge for this place, he saw the man laying there on the floor, he ran to him, got him into his hand, he said, Lord, please help him. In the same moment the guy got up, and he looked around, and he was so happy that he was well again. Everybody was looking around. The Torsten, he healed the man. Conversation started, and the man, the next day they were together again. He was cooking, and then they were cooking, and that man, the epileptic, came to our brother Torsten and said, Torsten, may I sit just beside you? Because you know all about this number with Jesus. The number with Jesus. The Jesus number. So the number with Jesus. You know how to do this. He said, may I sit beside you? Sure, you should sit beside me. I could tell you how this little kitchen became a starting point for a movement into whole families. A whole scenery developed. Starting with the little, but the proper. Starting with God's perspective for the place. Not with foreign money, not with foreign power, not with many full-time people and all of this. No, none of them was full-time. And the kitchen cooks, they came from the restaurants around. They were not even Christians. And they enjoyed it very much because now they were socially doing something. Yeah? My last story, and then I close. Do you have your day of harvest here in this country? Do you celebrate harvest? Mm-hmm. We also celebrate harvest in our village. We celebrated harvest. The whole village celebrated harvest. And one day in our prayer night, God showed us, you do not properly celebrate harvest. So we asked the Lord how to do this, and He told us, 24 hours of worship. When I came to my church, telling them we will for 24 hours sing songs and worship the Lord, it was quite a discussion, but the young people, they were all excited. They were excited. They were really excited, you know. 24 hours, Remi-Demi, wow, that's great! But we didn't Remi-Demi. We started with our political parties. We went to them and we told them, for 1 year, for one consecutive year, you have done politics. For a whole year. And many things were great. Some things were bad. But we are not discussing the bad stuff. We are celebrating harvest. And so we want to be thankful to our God that we have a mayor in our village. We didn't have war. We had a good development. So we want to thank God. So the mayor got all the politicians together, and our church was singing songs with them, praising the Lord, and presenting to all the politicians a big, nice present. It said, thank you, your Freie Evangelische Gemeinde. We do it every year, so if you go to the mayor today, you will see, well, 10 years, 10 presents, there's a flag hanging, there's all kinds of stuff. And people come there and they say, Freie Evangelische Gemeinde. They say, what's this? And the mayor is evangelizing. He says, well, this is this church there. You know, he's Catholic, but he's still very happy with us. So then we went to all industrial complexes, to companies. And one thing I want to mention. Now we went to a bakery. Our baker in the village, he's a great guy. I mean, great baker. But he is a great sinner also. He is the guy who lives every second month with another woman. And he was a real sinful figure. But his bread is great. So we went to his bakery and we told him we came here to say thankful to the Lord for your bread. Because if you wouldn't do this, he says, but I'm not a Christian. We said, well, it doesn't matter. Your bread is Christian. We want to be thankful to the Lord for the bread you bake. So we prayed for him, we sang songs, and we left him a little present. Thank you, your Freie Evangelische Gemeinde, and we left. At that time, we ran our gasoline station because the gasoline station was closed down. The village had no gasoline station, and we, the church, decided we'll pick up this bankrupt gasoline station and run it. That's what we did. We ran the gasoline station, and then another company came in. So the gasoline station was restored, and the village had the gasoline station. We moved out again. But our village needed the gasoline station. At this gasoline station, we also offered some bread and breakfast. And so the baker brought his buns to us every morning. His woman living with him brought the buns. Now, right the day after, she comes into our gasoline station with the bread, and she says to our worker there, you wouldn't believe it. You can't believe it. You know, my guy, she named that man and said, my guy, you know, he never talks about marrying me. He never does this. But you know, yesterday you were there and you were singing songs. And he couldn't sleep for the whole night. He has woken me up at least 5 times. He said, we can't continue like this. This is not right to live like we do. We have to marry. We have to marry. We didn't evangelize. We didn't say a word. We just said, thank you, Lord, for the Christian bread. We didn't say you are a sinner. We didn't do so. Yeah? We were celebrating God's harvest. Asking God, now where can we come in and bless those people and then invite them into God's world, into God's miraculous world. God is great. God is great and wonderful. He changes our world. So if you go home, you may remember this. You need a perspective of God for your villages and for your cities and for your country, for Denmark. The perspective of God, and then God is going to make you a painter. And you be the best Tyrol ever. You be God's Tyrol in the middle of Denmark. I'd like to bless you. May I do so? I'm Estonian, Russian, what have you, German, I don't know even what I am. But I'm God's minister, and I'd like to bless you because I see potential sitting behind this. One is even a theologian. You know, brother? Theologians are dangerous guys. But they could also become apostolic and prophetic, and they could become pastors. God's agents in the middle of your world. May I pray for you? Heavenly Father, thank you very much